Why Wait for Recovery community meeting. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Haiti, and we get together twice a week. I'm a compulsive overeater. I'm an emotional eater. I'm a binger. I'm a purger. I'm a post-bariatric food addict, and also I'm a drug addict in recovery.
And I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic in recovery. Good morning.
And we get together to discuss as friends and have conversations about recovery. How do I get it? How it's working? Things
How do
that
I
are
get
challenging
some?
me. What's
How do I
eating
get
me?
some?
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's what's eating me.
So, we're going to do again, we're going to go through our 15 seconds worth of complaining time. So you guys know I give everybody 15 seconds worth of time to say what's eating you or what your complaint is or what your challenge is actually. And then we can spend the whole rest of our time and our time this week and next week and for the next 10 years if we need to, talking about the solution. And so today we'll talk about the challenges a little bit. We'll talk about the solution. I think that there are some people that we didn't get to last week. So.
Right. And if we keep focusing on the problem, then nothing changes if nothing changes. And really the way to shift things is when we start looking at things differently, because I'm an addict and I'm an addict in recovery. The source of my problem really sits here because it comes down to my thinking, because based on my thinking that's how I decide what I'm doing. So that changes, I'm able to change either my perspective or my reaction to things. But if I keep reacting the same way and keep doing the same things and going to the same default behaviors or solutions, then nothing's going to change in my world and I end up exactly the same in the same place. Guilty, ashamed, demoralized, beating myself up and feeling like crap.
Yeah, and so we always want to check our motives, especially when we're complaining is a whole lot different than sharing a challenge. Sharing a challenge is, hey, you know what? This happened, or I'm feeling like this because da 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 da. How can I change my perspective? Or how do I change my actions? Or how do I do whatever it is that I want to do for myself so that I'm not feeling this way? How do I find out what is my part in this situation? Because remember, Jess, I am changing you, right? But I can change me. And I can change the way that I'm looking at things. And so when we're complaining, that's me calling Karen and saying, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened. And yesterday, and the kid did this, and she said this, and da da da. And then I had to call my boss, and I went into work, and you and my God, da da da. As opposed to, and then I hang up the phone with Karen. I wait to see what she has to say. I'm hoping that she's going to say, oh, that sounds so horrible, and that's so bad, and gee, and instead of saying, hey, how can we change our perspective? So if I'm complaining or I'm saying what my problem is because I want somebody to feel bad for me, I'm complaining. When I'm talking about a challenge because I want some help getting to the solution so that I could walk around a little bit happier today, so that I could be of service to others today, that's different. And so it doesn't matter what the feelings are, what's going on, we're all human beings, so we're all going to have those fear-based feelings, right? We're all going to be scared, we're all going to be resentful, angry, emotional. All of that's okay to have, right? Because we're human beings, and those are our normal reactions to life, and we're going to learn how to shift that, to shift our thinking a little bit, and to not live there for the next 67 years, right? Just to recognize what we're feeling, maybe get some help working through it, and then moving forward to something else more positive. Everybody understand that? The difference between the complaining and actually wanting help with a challenge? Okay.
So I've been an addict my whole life. It's not something that I woke up one day and went, today I'll be an addict and I'll be normal. Yay, let me do this. It's a disease for me. It's something that it governs my world. My recovery is how I live in a happy place and make happy choices and just shift that paradigm. But for me as an addict, my go-to place is really doing things to harm myself at the end of the day. And when I start getting into that blame game or into that shame game of shame for me, that becomes those excuses that I used to use. That's a very comfortable place for me to justify why it's okay to pick up or why it's okay for me to keep doing those things and why everyone else is responsible and I'm not. So really, we get together, we live stream on Facebook. I'm just going to bring this up.
We do.
And on YouTube. We always keep an archive on YouTube. But if you want to jump into the conversation, because there are thousands of people that watch us, jump onto either into the room on What's Eating You, and you can get the meeting ID, or live stream us on YouTube as well.
Okay. All right. So, do you have anything that
Yes, I do actually, because just because I'm in recovery.
Complain for a second. Yes.
No, just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean I'm immune and everything's perfect and I'm fighting flowers. It doesn't work that way.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. So there are days when I really don't want to be in recovery, and there are days that I just really want to go back to old behaviors and just, I just don't want to deal with this and know things.
Which is different than you saying you want to use. Right. Sometimes you
100%.
do want to use, and
Right.
sometimes you just don't want to have to deal with things. Just deal with things, right? Sometimes it's easier just to hide in your room,
Right.
even if you're not using.
Right, and sometimes it's easier just not talking to the kids and the husband and all that other stuff, but
Or you guys.
life shows up and life happens and I've got to show up. But I also sometimes do things, for me, I'm starting to realize that I know we say it's not about the food, but the food to me was always something that was a way that I either rewarded myself when good things happened, or I punished myself when I was feeling terrible, or I was able to communicate with friends. And I was out for dinner on Friday night, and there was a table full of normal people, and they laughing and joking about food and things. And I'm looking at this conversation, and I have a really hard time joking about something that really made me feel so bad and made me feel so uncomfortable, and then becomes getting to my head, and I go, well, did I mention I'm in recovery? It's a room full of 10 people at a table. Do I start getting into my head and start feeling uncomfortable and wear that recovery badge? I mean, it's got nothing to do with me picking up and eating stuff that I'm not supposed to, that I choose not to eat, because I'm still sitting with my little portions. I'm the one person at the table with little portions of food. So I say to people, do you know what? Someone commented, why are you eating so little? Because everyone else has these mounds of food that they're eating. I go, well, I paid a lot of money to eat like this. I'm one of those people that paid to have bariatric surgery, and this is why I did it. And the minute I say that, all of a sudden I can feel like there's a little bit of a change in atmosphere, and people start feeling, the woman who asked me started feeling really uncomfortable about having asked. When that happens, I start questioning myself as well. I start feeling uncomfortable, which is crazy because I really have nothing to be ashamed of.
Not only that, are you responsible? Somebody asked you a question, right?
Yeah.
I asked you a question. Haiti, what color is your shirt? You say, my shirt is gray and white. Are you responsible for my action or reaction at the end of that? No. Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Are you guys able to hear us? I think
there's a little bit of an echo, but it's not too bad.
Okay. Sorry. So you're not responsible. Once you say what you have to say, as long as we come from a place, right, that's good and kind and loving. You said, hey, you know what? I paid lots of money. I had bariatric surgery so that I could eat like this, right? That was your answer. How she feels at the end of that conversation isn't about you. It's about her. You can't change how she's feeling. You could be true to yourself. There are a lot of things that you could have done at that time, right? You could say your truth. Hey, this is the way that and you could just say, because this is the way I choose to eat. That could have been the end of the conversation as well. But whatever your part of the conversation was, you're only responsible for what you say. You're not responsible for how she feels about what you say, right?
Right, and the weird thing is, that's
right?
We
all get that.
So the weird thing is, my first compulsion, or my first thought is, maybe I take a big plate of food like everybody else, so I can fit in and be normal.
Because she's responsible for how everybody else at the table feels. Yes.
No, because I feel uncomfortable in myself. I feel less than in myself. Not about how they're dealing with it, but how I present is the way that I come.
And we call that
ego.
Ego, right?
I know.
Because I am only what your opinion of me is. If you think I'm doing something correctly, I must be smart, right? Or I must be right, or I must be good, or I'm going to fit in if I do that. It's not about that. It's about you being true to you. If you felt like taking a big plate of food and hardly eating, fine. If that's what you actually felt like doing just because I don't know why you do it, but whatever. But It's about you being able to show up, be authentic about who you are, and how everybody else looks at it isn't any of your business. You can't, you have absolutely no control over other people's perspectives, actions, and reactions. You only have control over your own actions and your own perspective.
And logically and intellectually, I get that.
Cognitively, we understand.
I was in active addiction for 42 years of my life. I was an addict for a really, really long time. So cognitively, I can understand it, but those feelings are still the same feelings that used to come up for so long. I mean, I've only been in recovery a really short period of time, and that stuff still comes up, and I know it's crazy.
Right. It's not that it's crazy. It is what it is. So you don't have to label yourself crazy. Shout out to my therapist who doesn't watch this anyway, but this is what she would be saying to me. It doesn't make you crazy. It just makes you a person having a feeling at the time. But I'm going to tell you guys something, because sometimes it's easier to look at it from the perspective of an alcoholic. So Haiti said, maybe I should have just gotten a plate of food. That's like me, a big plate of food. That's like me saying, well, we went out to listen to some music and they were serving drinks. So I just ordered a couple of shots of tequila so that I would fit in. First of all, I'm gonna tell you, if I order those couple of shots of tequila, there's a good chance that if I don't drink today, that next week I'm gonna. That's first of all, because now I'm caring about what's happening on the outside of my world instead of on the inside of my world, right? Right? So let's be careful let's check our motives when we're doing that as well. But Karen, if I was out to dinner with you, do you think it would be acceptable for me? We were out to dinner with you and your family, and I'm meeting everybody for the first time, and your family's a bunch of drunks. That's cool, right? And everybody's drinking, and I order a Jack and Coke. Is that normal behavior on my part as an alcoholic? Fuck no. Of course it's not. And I think that it's kind of easy to see with alcohol.
Right, and I must tell you, no, all jokes aside, so everyone's sitting at the table and everyone's got the glasses of wine and everyone's drinking, and I'm going, well, maybe I should have something to drink. I'm not an alcoholic, but I know that for me, if anything starts making me feel really good, if something makes me feel really good and they warn me your stomach's this big and you're highly likely to become an alcoholic if you start drinking, because it's swapping one addiction for another. And I know, I've done that research, that it's very easy for me to swap one thing for another. So I'm still sitting there thinking, maybe that's not a bad idea. I mean, this is how fucked up the thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys, we all think like that. We all think like that. We do. Especially when we're in a situation that makes us feel a little uncomfortable, right? It's a little bit new and a little uncomfortable, and to not have that go-to behavior. And for me, my thing is to look at everybody else, and I don't really come from a place of lack too often. I really don't. That's not one of my things. But I have a challenge. I don't really have a challenge like if I feel sad that I feel like drinking, or if I feel upset that I want to eat 90 Percocet. I mean, that happens sometimes. It's when people are partying that I'm like, oh, poor, pitiful Felice. She doesn't get to get drunk and fall down and throw up like everybody else does, right? And I do get in that when people are partying. And so you're out in a place where people are laughing and having fun, and they're getting laughier and funnier until they're not, because they're drinking and they're eating and they're sharing. And I think sometimes too we feel a little bit left out, right? Which for me goes back to that shame thing. Like if I was only normal like everybody else was, then I can do what everybody else is doing. So I know that that's going to come up sometimes as well. So thank you for sharing that. I guarantee you everybody feels that way. I guarantee you, really. Right? It's like we talk about people who are post-surgery or people who are quote-unquote dieting, and then you don't want to explain, and you don't want to say the recovery word, and you don't want to, all of that stuff. And that's okay. And that's some stuff that you're going to go through, and at the end of the day, you're going to go through it because you're keeping yourself healthy, and because you're being true to yourself, and because it doesn't matter what somebody else feels. We all got that? Can anybody add to that? Anybody want to add, how they feel in that situation, or got 15 minutes? 15 seconds. They're like, no, I have to save my 15 seconds for something else that's really bothering me. Okay, raise your hand out there if somebody wants to share something, otherwise I'm gonna start picking up.
Yeah, and I also just want to know, because I do come from the place of ego, just give us a thumbs up or a like if this has ever happened to you on Facebook as well.
And that's a sharing thing.
It is a
And
sharing
that's not an
thing.
ego thing for you. That's a sharing, like, let's let everybody in the community know that they're not alone.
You know, I was
You
brought
guys
up.
aren't alone. Look,
Yes.
Jessica put a hand up.
Awesome.
I love that little hand
Yeah.
up thing.
So the reason that that's important for me is because I come from that place that I was brought up, don't tell, don't share. So for me, this is part of my recovery, is being open and
Yeah,
starting
of
to share.
Of course,
Speak.
right, and letting other people know that,
Right.
we all think, oh, I feel this way, and it's so stupid. No, it's not. They're regular human emotions that we have, that we're recognizing so that we can learn through them. Okay, so that we can learn and we can grow spiritually through them.
You know,
Miss oh,
sorry, 1 second. So the one thing I realized now is yesterday I was walking around craving and thinking about food a lot, but no time on Friday night did I actually reach out to anybody and say, do you know what, this happened?
right.
So it still somehow sits inside of me, and I'm starting to realize now after speaking, I feel so much better, and that part of being able to like reach out to the community and be able to share something definitely starts shifting the way that we start feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sorry, Jess.
All right, Jess, your turn. You're up. Thank you, Katie.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Haiti, because I could definitely relate. You probably saw my head going the whole time. But I wanted to follow up on what I had shared about on Thursday about Felice. You had mentioned, well, maybe that person didn't recognize you that I saw, out in public or whatever. So I was in another situation at work where we had a therapy dog that comes like on Fridays to visit the patient. Yeah. And the lady that was with the therapy dog was like, oh, how long have you worked here? I don't think I've met you. I said, I've been here 3 years. She's like, here on this unit? Like, yeah. And I said, I've met you. And then it clicked. I was like, oh, you probably don't recognize me because they go through a rotation. She doesn't come every Friday. And I was like, you know what? Felice might have been right.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't recognize me.
And so just remember, when we're making something up anyway, right, because you were telling yourself a story. This person didn't speak to me. Why? Because I'm not good enough, because she doesn't care, because she doesn't like me, because she's with her friends and she doesn't want to be embarrassed. All of those things that you made up in your head that were negative. Like I said, if
Right.
we're going to make stuff up, let's make stuff up happy. Hey, I bet I changed so much in my appearance that she doesn't even recognize me. I can't wait to see her next time so I could go up and say, it's me. Right?
Right.
So she didn't even
Right.
recognize you, this other person. Because when
Right.
you lose all of that weight, I'm telling you, I didn't recognize Haiti. I hadn't seen her in a while and she had lost so much weight. And I'd seen her every friggin' day of my life. So, and then I didn't recognize her because I didn't see her for a while. So that can happen, but remember, there's the story. Shout out to Susan, best mom ever, who says, there's this story we tell ourselves, and then there's what really happened. Right? What's
Right.
really happening in somebody else's head, we have no idea. But if we're going to make something up, let's make up something great. Because otherwise
Right.
you're walking around feeling bad. When, if you had said, wow, I bet, you know what, I look so different, I bet she doesn't recognize me, you'd probably be walking around patting yourself on the back all day, yay, good job, me, right? As opposed
Right.
to, I'm not worth saying hello to.
Right.
Stop it.
I know.
Karen's laughing because I sent her the stop it thing. Stop it. Thank you for sharing that, Jess. That's so important, right? So important about how we walk around and decide what other people are thinking about us. Who
Yeah,
are we?
I'm pretty sure it had a real light bulb above my head that
For
day.
you. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody have anything to add to that? Yes.
I would love to. So at the time that Felice is talking about, there's something called the Women's Empowerment Network, and it's amazing. They do these different teachings and these different learnings, and I've been seeing the same people at different events throughout that year. I mean, honestly, there were a lot of people that I had close relationships with no one recognized me. I was walking around that weekend going, no one likes me.
At Women's Prosperity Network?
I'm in the Women's Prosperity Network.
Shout out to Women's Prosperity Network.
Coffee still got a kick in there for me. So Women's Prosperity Network. So I walked around thinking that it was about me, that they didn't like me. I left early because I was that uncomfortable.
And nobody recognized her. So if you would have gone up to people and said, it's so good to see you, it's me, Haiti, and they would have said, wow. I didn't even know that was you. Right? Story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got any other made up stuff in their head they want to talk about? Okay. All right. Who wants to check in? I'm going to start picking on you guys. Who didn't speak last time? Liz, did you speak last meeting?
No.
Liz?
Sorry, take me a second.
Did you speak last? Okay. Can you share today? Jennifer didn't.
So I've been thinking about something that you said a couple of weeks ago. I probably won't rephrase it correctly. It was something about how we're all trying to get back to a place before, kind of like before when we were okay. Or maybe that's just the way I interpreted it, but I've been kind of going through my life and thinking, okay, when was I happy? When was I okay with myself? What do I have to compare to? And I'm thinking back through the years, and I'm like, wow, I've been really unhappy with myself my entire adulthood, through my teenage years, since I was a kid. And it stems back to as far back as I can remember, 10 years old, 7 years old.
Okay.
I don't have that before to kind of look at, so I'm searching for something new, and I don't know what that looks like yet.
So Liz, if I was talking about before, I would have been talking about, as I have no idea what I was talking about, but half the time. But I would have been talking, I would imagine, about, you know, if I only. For me, some of us have real bad events that happened, and so I'm talking about going back to change an event that happened, and that we can't ever do. I was talking about living in yesterday, like, wow, like it would be like Jessica, I'm gonna use this because it's so simple, Jessica going back right now, and instead of saying, maybe, you know, whatever, it would be Jessica going back right now and saying to us, you know, I should have walked up to the table, and if I only walked up to the table, and maybe if I walked up to the table, but she didn't walk up to the table, and she can't rewind her life so that she walks up to the table to say hello. And so that's what I was talking about. I was talking about living in yesterday or living in tomorrow. Yesterday is a place that we have no business living in because there's nothing that we can do to change it. And tomorrow is a story also that we're making up. It's some fantasy that we're having about maybe this is gonna happen. And when we're living in maybe this will happen tomorrow, or if only I did this yesterday, we're missing the movie, right? We're missing our life as it is right now. I'm gonna tell you, Liz, the majority of us, there's this stuff called schemas. You might want to look them up, and I'll put the word up on our Facebook. But they're actually the way that we learn to view the world when we're little, and that allows us to look at the world either as a safe place where some bad stuff happens, or a bad place where once in a while something good happens. And so we kind of have that stuff ingrained in us. Kids who grew up in an abusive families, or in families with alcoholics, or families where maybe the parents fought a lot, with parents that didn't nurture you and care for you the way that you needed to, just the way that you view the world. And so it's not, when you say, you know, I don't remember a time when I'm happy, there are a lot of people that don't remember times when they're happy. Because if you grew up and sometimes people grow up in a home that isn't a horrible home, it's just for some reason the way that we view the world. But remember, our feelings, our life is 1,000% our perspective. 1,000%. Events happen, and they happen, and they happen, and they happen. Most of them don't happen to us. They happen. And how we view them, our perspective, is what decides if I'm going to have a happy moment or not, right? How long I stay in the ouch decides whether or not I'm going to have a happy life. So after my son Eddie died, I spent a whole lot of time only looking at that event and completely forgetting that there was a whole lot of other life going on, right? And my therapist would tell you that stems back to da-da-da-da-da, whatever other kind of PTSD I had from when I was younger. And I get that, but still, I needed somebody to teach me right then or shortly after how to still look at life as not a scary place where good things happen sometimes, but as a great place and scary things happen sometimes. And so that's the difference when we say coming from a place of abundance or a place of lack. It's looking at our life and coming from a place of abundance and being happy about things and as best as we can. And when when we're confronted with something, to look at it, feel the feelings that we're going to feel as human beings, and then learn how to either learn from that experience or let the experience go. Because otherwise, it's our perspective that's keeping us stuck and sick and scared. And so, Liz, if you don't have anything great to look back on, doesn't mean that you have to stay unhappy today. And that's a really, really, really big thing that you shared. So thank you for sharing that, because there are also a lot of people that feel that way, right? And what happens when we've gone through our life and we feel like, I never got a break, nothing good's ever happened to me, we need to make that our own reality. We need to create that reality. We need to create something that allows us to have a great day today. I'm going to tell you when we talk about this, but you're having a crappy day. Do you ever, buy somebody's coffee in front of you at Dunkin' Donuts? It's like such an amazingly cool thing to do. I love to when there are elderly people behind me at the checkout to buy their groceries. Not so that anybody knows about it, but just because it's such a cool thing. And for that 10 seconds, I'm completely out of my own head and I'm being of service to somebody else. And that'll make me buzzed. So literally buzzed, like high, buzzed. And that's an okay buzz to have. To reach out to somebody else in the community, and instead of saying, it's funny, there are people that come and go in this community. And they come into the community and they learn and they take and they change, or they don't. And then they leave the community. And after that, there's never, but with a lot of people, they don't even call and say, hey, how are you today? I'm not into the recovery thing or anything, or I'm not doing this anymore, but how are you today? And how have you been? Get out of yourself and see if there's some way that you could reach out a hand to somebody else. For that 10 or 15 or 35 seconds, you're gonna feel differently. Do your gratitude list. Make sure what you do. Make sure that you're doing it. And if you need to get out of your head 15 times that day, do 15 gratitude lists. Change your perspective. Look at what you are grateful for as opposed to what you're sad about, because that's the only thing that's going to help to start retraining your brain to fire about stuff that's happy.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah,
this
big
is
thing to say.
It's a big thing to say, and a big thing for a lot of us. When I look at where I am now to where I started in recovery, I was like that train on a railway track. My life was going in one direction, and I kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, but landing up in the same place. And I came in, I couldn't remember things from the past at all. I was that numbed out that I just couldn't remember things that happened in my childhood. And I came to realize, this is the first time I gave myself the gift of self-discovery, of actually being able to sit down and work on myself. I'm that compulsive neurotic, I'm that person that I'm a super achiever, but I'm a control freak. So that's how I came into the rooms.
And that works for all of us, right?
It made me crazy. It kept me in being sick. And I came into the rooms, I was really, really sick. And as I started being gentler and kinder to myself and started talking a little bit more, things started coming up and memories started coming up. But I also realized something, that whatever happened in the past is great to keep it as a thought and a process and something in the past, but it can't keep defining where I am right at this point in time. It's brought me right here. And part of it is the learning. And I find that this is why this community is so essential for me, because I was on one track. You know, with you guys, I learn from sharing. You know, when you talk from your heart, I go, wow, that really resonates with me, and I can identify with that message. You know, for me, it really touched something in me, and it helps me learn more about myself. Yeah, and it helps me get answers to stuff that may have puzzled me before. But it definitely takes being part of the process and keep coming back and working on myself and doing the things that I'm told to do instead of the things that I want to do. Because if I do the things that I want to do, I'll never talk. I'll be quiet, I'll be in my head, I'll be isolating, I'll be hurting myself. That's the place where I want to go. But when I start learning, I go, wow, that is amazing. And when you start watching how people start progressing and growing, to me it's astounding. I look at you guys and I admire you for your courage.
Yeah, and Liz, you know, we were talking in the beginning before the meeting started about, Jess was saying about how, you know, she feels afraid to talk or afraid to share. And so if Liz, who probably comes from that same place, is afraid to talk or afraid to share, then what she just said that had everybody else shaking their head, that's something that everybody else is thinking about, wouldn't have been shared. And so nobody else would have gotten to work on themselves at that moment or recognize something in themselves that maybe they want a little bit of help with. So thanks for sharing that, Liz. Sharing is scary, you guys. It is. It keeps us vulnerable, and our ego says maybe Karen's going to think I'm stupid if I say that, right? Forgetting that if Karen thinks I'm stupid for saying that, first of all, that's okay, because that's about Karen, it ain't about me. Right, Karen? Jennifer, did you get a chance to share last time?
I did not, no.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Can you share today?
So I've been having like a really emotionally challenging week.
Okay.
And I don't really know if it's particularly about anything specifically, but I'm having like feelings of abandonment like the last couple of days, and I just don't really know how to.
So I need better words than that. So feelings of abandonment, we tend to talk around what's happening. So my best friend won't talk to me and I'm feeling abandoned, or I tried to call my mom and she's, I need better, I need more specific words than that, please. Or do you just feel lonely?
That too. I know that the past couple of days I haven't really been talking to my boyfriend as much as we usually do because he's been very busy with work.
Okay.
So he's a big part of my support system. So.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I'm sorry that you're sad, because I can see that you're sad. And remember, when we're scared, it's easy for us to look to somebody else to change the way that we're feeling. So people actually have addictions in their relationships, right? And you're gonna learn in your recovery that changing the way that you're feeling is an inside job. Because if he gets called off to a job in Timbuktu and there's no phone service in Timbuktu, and he's going to be there for a month and he's going to come back, you know, after, and for that month, you still learn, you'll still learn how to have your own happy. He's not your happy. He's your relationship. Your happy is going to come from you, baby. It can't come from him. People die. People leave, right? We have emotions like that when we're detached from somebody. You're having abandonment issues. You probably had that somewhere from before. I'm not your therapist, so probably have that somewhere from before. But you're going to learn, Jennifer, thank you for sharing that. You're going to learn that in recovery, that your happy comes from you. That your security, that you being okay. We talked the other day, and you guys all posted, thank you for everybody that posted about why I can't be alone with myself for 10 seconds, right? In recovery, we're gonna get to that point where we're okay to be alone with ourselves for 10 seconds, you know, and we're okay to reach out to somebody else when we're feeling ugly, either to get some help or to be of service. And we're gonna learn, you know, we're gonna have those tools that we'll have to use, so that if if Haiti and Angeli decide to go on vacation for a month in Europe and I can't go and they're not bringing their cell phones because they're going to be off the grid, for me to spend that time sad and scared and feeling lonely and apart is actually, once I recognize it, a choice that I'm making, right? Because I can call Karen and I could go down the block to the daycare in the afternoon and see if I could volunteer to help change the baby's diapers, right? Or I could go walk my next door neighbor's puppy, or I could sit and reflect and relax and maybe write that song that I always wanted to write. You know what I mean? It's about me taking care of me, no matter what's going on. They're part of my outside world who I let into my world. My inside world, my spiritual well-being comes from me, sweetheart. It doesn't come from them. We understand that, right? And I'm sorry that you're having those feelings. And again, people are shaking their head. So yeah, of course, we feel that ouch, and especially when we're not feeling strong about ourselves, because then we're used to looking at somebody else for our strength or our happiness. And that's a scary place to be, because that can be taken away.
Yeah.
I can so relate to you, I must tell you. I was brought up to be that, like, what looked good on the outside. So I was that perfect mother and wife and all those things. And I'm also that compulsive, obsessive personality. So if I wasn't picking up food or smoking something, I was obsessing about my husband. And it brought a lot of resentment because I was obsessing, what is he doing? Why is he home late? All these different things. And then I was neurotic about the kids. Are they okay? What's going on? So everything became all this noise outside my head. And I'm very codependent. It's something that I'm working on. It's something I've become less over time as I'm more in recovery. And I'm starting to realize that those things are external things for me. They almost material things. The stuff that's happening on the inside for me is the stuff that is, my happiness comes from the inside. I came into the rooms, I was so lonely. Until I met Felice, I didn't have proper friends. Until I started understanding about recovery, I always used to say that I'm one of the loneliest people around. I have no one to call or people to depend on unless I was out partying or, I was the most social person, always big parties in the house and going out and the person dancing on the table and all that kind of stuff. But on the inside, I was really extremely lonely, but I presented very well on the outside. So for me, it's been a bit of a learning process is why did I try so hard for me to be all these things and not really give myself time to grow and learn about me. And also, as I started getting into the process, I never had feelings. I numbed my feelings out for so long. I would do anything but feel. And recovery is all about recognizing feelings and learning about feelings, and my feelings started having feelings. And it's also a part of that. And then everything starts feeling very shaky because I started thinking, well, what I was doing before was wrong. And it became a question of right and wrong instead of just being where we are right now and being able to learn from this moment, whatever presents itself without judgment. And that's part of my learning right now, is not being that judgmental on myself. I'm being kinder and nicer to me and trying to practice those things that I do to other people.
And I want you to remember too that feelings aren't facts. They're feelings. They're feelings. I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling lonely. Okay, that's a feeling that I'm having, right? I'm not locked in a cage inside of my house, inside of my room, without a phone and without a computer and without a car. None of those things are happening. Those would be facts, right? They're
Right.
feelings, and sometimes we can't change the facts. It's raining outside. It's raining outside. That's a fact, right? I'm pissed off because it's raining outside. That's a feeling that I can change. And so there's going to be a lot of learning about that too. What is a fact and what's a feeling? Because if it's a feeling, I can work through that feeling. I can change my perspective, maybe not at this second, but I can change my perspective so that I feel better. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have anything to add? Yes.
Yeah, hi everyone. So thanks Jennifer for sharing that actually. I do strongly relate to that. I was married for 3+ years, and when I left that relationship, it was painful as hell because I had to get in touch with myself. I actually had to go into a very massive withdrawal for me, because he was everything in my life. You know, everything revolved around him. And
Jess,
for me,
Jess,
yeah.
I want you to rephrase that and say, I allowed him to be everything in my life. Say that, please.
I allowed him to be everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. No. Absolutely. You know. Yeah. And thanks, Felicia, for saying that. Yeah. No. Because yeah, it's true. You know, I allowed that. You know, and for me, that's sad in some ways that I did that. But for me, I think now, you know, I mean, I'm very grateful that I mean, I'm glad that I had to do that, that I had to go through that process, because for me now, I'm learning to realize that if I do get into a relationship in future, for me, they will be an addition to me. They won't be, you know, if you know what I mean, they will be an addition to me rather than them being everything to me, if that makes any sense.
And,
you know, I hopefully will come to a place of being happy with myself and not feel the abandonment. I mean, I struggle with the abandonment issues even now, but I sit with that and I accept them and realize actually I have other people around me. I have those in my community to support me when I really need that, you know, and to be able to share honestly. And sometimes even if I don't get the feedback from them, that's enough. It's to be heard for me, and the connection with other people.
Yeah, and so we're going to remember what happens a lot of times, you guys, too, in relationships with friends or with guys or with women or with whatever, our outside relationships. If we don't change, we fall into those same patterns. So those are the women who married the same guy 16 times, you know, or married the same woman 16 times. You know, it's about, again, and one of my favorite quotes is that we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so if I don't change the way that I'm looking at the world, my world is always going to look the same. And so as you learn in recovery to change your perspective and to realize that that happiness is going to come from within you, that's going to allow you to change the type of relationship that you have and have a more healthy and loving relationship first with yourself, so that you can learn to have a healthy and loving relationship with somebody else. Yes, ma'am.
So I always thought, I was brought up to believe that two halves make a whole, and it's absolute bullshit. I've come to realize, because two sick people make a really sick relationship.
Person, yeah.
Okay. And two halves make still two halves. Okay. It takes two whole people and two healthy people to have a healthy relationship. So I went into my marriage thinking I could fix or change my husband and that everything would be okay. And that's not true. I mean, I'm still married, going on 20 years this year. Shout out to Stephen Hay. But it's taking work. You know, it's really taking both of us working at it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Good job. Anybody else that didn't share? I know Nancy is there. I haven't seen. I can't see. Tracy's. Oh, Trace. I think Tracy shared last time. Hi, Tracy. Did you get a chance to share?
I got a chance to share last time.
Anything come up for you?
I'm just going to let anybody else share.
She's like, I'm not talking to that police girl. She's gonna say something horrible. Awesome. Yeah, so if you have anything that you need to shout out, go ahead and do it. Karen, you weren't at last meeting, were you? You were like out somewhere in the forest or something. How are you?
Oh, what? I was in the sticks.
Yeah. All right.
I'm good.
Anything come up?
You know, the only thing that I'm challenged with right now is just still picking the ticks off the puppy. And I think she brought back every tick in the county, but we're working through that, so everything's good.
Karen, I'm gonna call you out because I can.
Okay.
So
Okay.
she's like, we talked about doing your fourth step, right? Was it your fourth
Yes.
step? Where are you stuck on? Which step?
I think it's step 9.
Okay, something that you're stuck on. And so, yeah, so you guys, people are in different places in the workshop. Some people are in different places with what they're doing. And for Karen, we talk about being honest with ourselves and then being honest with others, basically. Talking about how we feel, talking about some of our past experiences, and learning how to share them with the people that we have the past experiences with, right? And That's a place of growing up and a place of looking at ourselves, and it's not about sharing. It's not about me sharing this with you, Karen. It's about me forgiving myself for what's happened in the past, right? See, the train is going right through that whole thing there. It's about self-forgiveness, and until I can forgive me, I'm gonna have a really hard time forgiving you, right? Until I understand that actually to err is human and to forgive is divine. It's not about me forgiving Liz, but it's about me forgiving me. I forgive Liz because if I'm pissed off at Liz, it makes my life unhappy. I forgive me for stuff that's happened yesterday because there's nothing I could do about it, first of all. And second of all, because if I don't, if I walk around with that shame, I do stay stuck and sick and scared, right? That shame is a fear-based emotion, afraid of losing what I have or afraid of not getting what I want. And so that's super important. Can we put our stuff down on paper and learn to forgive ourselves? I promise you we can. I promise you that that's possible once we have the tools behind us. So once we learn how to do that and get it done. Okay?
It makes my hands clammy just thinking about it, talking about it.
I know, but super important. So we're gonna have some self-awareness in recovery, and we're gonna have a whole lot of self-forgiveness. And then we're gonna learn how to forgive others, because those resentments and against ourselves and against others is what keeps us stuck in really scared and in a horrible, lonely place.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks, so what I did and this was the worst thing in the world. It ain't. You know, and it happened. It's done. It happened. The only way that we can let it go is through forgiveness. Right? We said last time, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So when we're resenting ourselves, we're drinking the poison because we want to die, right? And that's not where we're going to learn to be in our recovery.
This triggered a thought with me. You know, I treated some people really badly when I was in active addiction. I really did some terrible things. I lied. I did a lot of things that were bad that I can't change the past. I absolutely can't. But the way that I can really make amends is by being the best person I possibly can be today. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the only thing I'm capable of doing, because I never know what's going to happen tomorrow, and some of those people I don't even know where they are.
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes it's about saying I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, I spoke to you yesterday and I was short with you, and I'm sorry. You know, and I'm gonna do my best not to have that happen again, and to give you the chance to say okay, or to give you the chance to say, you know what, you're a bitch and I don't want to talk to you tomorrow. And all of that is okay, as long as I'm doing my best to do my best. That's all I'm responsible for. Ange, did you share last time? Can you share? Where do you go like this? I'm calling you out, man. Do you have anything to say?
No.
You have nothing to say about anything?
Does it have to be about honesty?
No. You lie about whatever you want. No, I'm just kidding. The thing is, Angela, everything that you share is about honesty.
I know.
Everything that we're going to share is about us being honest about something.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to say right now.
Okay. Okay. So you don't have anything to say right now. So we'll raise your hand if you do, and then otherwise I'll pick on you again next time.
Okay, pick on
Okay.
Nancy.
Okay, I'll pick on Nancy. Where's Nancy? Okay, Nancy, I'm picking on you because Ange doesn't want me to pick on her.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm struggling.
Okay, what are you struggling with?
Eating.
Okay.
Not eating. Yesterday was a bad day. I just felt rotten all day and was tired, and I should have just gone back to bed. But I ate a bag of popcorn last night, and I was really mad at myself because I'm on a low carb diet, and I was feeling bad all day, and then I tried to, I know popcorn's not.
Yeah, so we're not gonna talk about the food, we're gonna talk about the feeling. And so what
Yeah,
happened was you
so-
did something that you probably would have chosen not to do had you thought it through, right? And now you're feeling guilty and ashamed. The guilty and ashamed part doesn't serve you. So that happened, sucks, that happened, let it go. Because right now you're living in last night, right? Okay, stop living in last night, it's done.
Yeah,
done.
I just feel really down about the fact that I was not able to.
But Nancy, I understand that, so give yourself your 10 seconds of feeling bad and let it go, because if you feel bad about it for the next year, it's not gonna change. And if you feel bad about it for the next 10 seconds, it's not gonna change. It already happened. So right now you're living in the if only, if I only, if I only, which is what we started talking about in the first place, that Liz and I were talking about. So that happened. You know, a lot of us actually have clean time, a really long amount of clean time, and we relapse. That stuff happens. Does it have to happen? No, it doesn't. Does it happen? Yes, it does to some of us. And let it go. You ate some popcorn yesterday? Okay, that happened. It's done. Work on what it is that you're going to do today. Are you doing gratitude lists? You do a gratitude list every day?
Not every day.
Okay, so that answer is no. So remember, we're gonna be, let's be honest. So do you do a gratitude list every day? No, I don't. I'm going to challenge you to do a gratitude list every day. And I'm gonna challenge you also when you're feeling scared or sad or tired to throw some 3 things that you're grateful for up on what's eating you.
Okay.
I hit the table.
I know.
She laughed at me. I hit the table. I went almost the whole meeting without hitting the table.
I wasn't even thinking. I wanted to ask Jess earlier before we started mentioned something about the gratitude list. Would you share that with everyone?
Yeah, I was just saying that actually, since actually Felice actually mentioned the gratitudes and actually said on Thursday to me last week, have you been doing your gratitude list? I'm thinking, well, yeah, my sponsors mentioned it, but I haven't been doing it, and I was resistant to it. And it's interesting because my sponsor's like, well, come on, it'd be really good for you. I do it. It really helps. So I took it. I tried to take it to heart at the time, and I actually just thought, yeah, I need to do something. And then, funnily enough, I didn't do anything until that meeting on Thursday. And of course, Felice said to me, have you been doing your gratitude list? And I'm thinking, okay, I actually need to do them. So I didn't just have one person telling me I need to, that, you know, I need to have a go at it. You know, I actually had quite a few times through the week said to me, and I'm really grateful actually what that's done for me. It's really helped my mood. It's really helped my perspective in the sense that I'm looking, I get the words right in a minute. My disease is negative thinking. Mm-hmm. That is part of my disease, is negative thinking. And for me, what it just does is it shifts that ever so slightly. Every day that I've been doing the gratitude list, it's shifting that little by little every day. And I'm finding I'm waking up in the morning and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much more I can be grateful for today. It's not easy. As you can tell, it took me a while to really get to a space of trying it. But it's been really successful with me over the last few days. Actually, it's been really successful since Thursday. And actually, when my sponsor said it, I actually told her, she said, great, wonderful. So, you know, and it helps. It really does help. I've benefited an awful lot from just doing it, you know, and actually making the effort. Thank you.
So I just wanted to share with you as well, when I first started doing the gratitude list, the first one took me about 20 minutes to do. I couldn't think of 3 things I was grateful for. And as I've been doing it more and more, it takes me like 2-3 seconds to actually bang one out quickly. It becomes easier the more we practice. I think there's like a gratitude muscle. The more we do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
And it just takes practice, but being consistent also helps. So if it's setting a reminder in your phone or whatever that looks like, just set it up and have a time of day when you just do it.
It's so funny, you know, we know that gratitude begets gratitude, right? And so the more we look at the good stuff, the more we look at the good stuff, right? And Angie, you had shared that to begin with, and you shared a lot of meetings that, You thought that I was crazy and I didn't know what I was talking about. Why should she have to do a gratitude list? And that's so stupid, until she started doing a gratitude list and then said in a bunch of meetings, it's something that's helped me change my perspective more than anything else. And isn't it so funny that we say, I was resistant to it at first. We're resistant about writing down something we're grateful for. Like, think about that. I'm not going to write down what I'm grateful for. What does that mean? And we all do it. All of us do it. Like, why should I have to write down what I'm grateful for? Why not? And I'm going to let you guys know something. The way that you've been living your lives till right now isn't working. And so when somebody makes a suggestion, and I don't care if that suggestion is for 15 minutes a day, you're going to wear your shoe on your hand. If it's somebody else that you respect their recovery, and they're trying to teach you a change in perspective, and they say, hey, do this, not try it, but do this because it's helped so many, you're in the position to say, yes, I will. Because if you stay where you are and you do what you did, you're going to get what you had. If you don't change, you don't change. And so when you're hearing other people, again, that you do respect their recovery, do what they say. How could we, and we're all resistant to doing it. Every single one of us in the beginning is resistant to doing it. How could we be resistant to writing down happy? Yes.
So like you talked about my perspective on it, and so the thing is yeah, I was resistant, but I was like, I think I had so much respect in a scared kind of way that I just did what you said.
Yeah.
And you didn't know I thought it was stupid until 5 or 6 months in.
Correct.
But I thought, like, what is this gonna do? And that change in perspective was the first step to facilitate my recovery ultimately.
Correct.
So just speaking
Thank
of
you.
gratitude, service is gratitude in action. It's a way that we express it and show it to other people. So I have to express gratitude at the moment. We have people that help us in our journey and of getting the message forward to other addicts, the message of recovery and the solution. And one of those companies is Trim Agency and General Provision, who gives us this amazing space in Fat Village. We're in a war room. It's quite amazing. I love being
It's
in Fat
actually
Village.
called Fat Village, the name of the place that we are. I'm going to
this
take a picture
area.
of it and show you guys.
It's
like
actually
amazing.
really cool.
So funny.
Just a shout out to them because we so appreciate what you do and for having done this for us. And also the other people who step up and are of service in our community. Angeli, Ahmed, Jessica, Karen. There are just so many people that step up and go, what can I do to help? And we are grateful for you because the more people we reach, the less people who have to live with pain and suffer in this terrible disease of addiction.
And thank you for sharing, because you sharing, I know it helps everybody else, but it certainly helps me in my recovery. Certainly. So thank you for your service for everybody that shares.
And all of us have started in the same place. You know, I can relate to the newcomer as much as I can relate to the people who have been here for a long time because it's all part of the learning. And the newcomer, I came in as a newcomer. I was afraid. I was mute. I was so messed up when I first walked into the room, and I just didn't have confidence at all. I felt like a piece of shit. And I've really grown so much in this community. We have a community online. It's called What's Eating You. It's on Facebook. You have to answer 3 questions to be accepted as a member. So please make sure you answer the questions or we won't accept you. It's a place where we get to share our gratitude. It's a place where we get to share things that we're struggling with. We have people from all around the world who join us. So there's always someone who's going to connect with you, even just sometimes posting it, even if no one connects with you, it helps. Everything helps us in our recovery. And also we meet up again on Thursday at 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be posting up about the one-day workshop that's coming up as well, because there's a lot to get through and we can't get through everything in an hour and do intensive work because there's just too many people.
So what I'm going to do, last time I gave you guys your 15 seconds worth of put on Facebook, what's bothering you. What I want to do, I read somebody said, so-and-so said, maybe I didn't reach my bottom. You can't decide what my bottom is. You can't decide how I'm feeling. Only I can. If we say, well, Angeli said maybe I haven't hit my bottom yet, that gives me an excuse not to step into recovery. My challenge for today is I want everybody I don't know how many words or less, like to say it in, but I want to know what everybody's bottom is, and I will share my bottom as well. But I want to know what everybody's bottom is, because you're going to see some people's bottoms looked pretty darn good on the outside, and some people were living on the street. And you know what? It doesn't make us different. Just makes us all people that want to step into the recovery, no matter where we were, that have decided that enough is enough, and that the pain of going through what I need to go through for recovery is going to be a whole lot better than the poop that I'm sitting in right now, and the pain that I have right now. So challenge this week, share what your bottom is, please. Thank you.
And you're going to take us on.
I'm going to read the promises from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. My name is Dr. Felice Cellini. Thank you so much for being here at our Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning recovery meeting.
My name's Haiti. I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And if no one's told you today that they love you, I love you. Have a beautiful week. See you on Thursday.
Peace out, you guys.
everybody.
Recovery's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Jess-
job, everybody.
Jess, I'm proud of you, love.
Good job.
Thank you.
Which one?
All y'all.
All of you.
All y'all, as they say in Tennessee where I was in treatment.